Over the last probably year, even more so, last couple months, 6 or so months, we're seeing this big push on everyone needs to insert the blank. So we're seeing a lot of emphasis on people driving their knees over their toes. We're seeing a lot of discussion on things like text neck and getting out of certain positions, or forcing ourselves into what some might consider perfect posture. We need to understand that several things. Number one, there's no such thing as perfect posture. Number two, there's no such thing as bad posture. But what we do know is the only position that you, let me rephrase that. The only bad position or the only bad posture is a posture or a position I cannot get out of. The only position or posture I need is the one that I can't get into. So we'll look at something very specific here, and that is we'll look at the ankle. And so a big debate right now in the athletic realm is knees over toes, and everyone needs knees over toes. Is this really the case? Chances are no, not everyone needs knees over toes. Rather, we need to look at each individual. So, are you someone who can't get your knees over your toes? If that's you, you probably need a little bit of knees over toes. If you're someone who is hyper flexible, you're able to drive that knee over the toe, keep your heel flat, you don't really feel much of an issue, you've always been a bit more of a forward-leaning squatter, a forward-leaning lunger, then you absolutely don't need a knees forward approach. So rather than looking at this in terms of a global what do I need and what don't I need, we need to look at this in terms of each individual. What do I, as Coach Mitch, need? I'll use myself as an example. I absolutely 100% do not need to train any more knees over toes than I already am. I don't have knee pain, I don't have hip pain, and I front squat enough throughout a given block or a given year. What I do need to work on is I need to work on more pronation in my foot versus supination. So I have a very high arch, and for me, I like to ride on the outsides of my foot. This is taking away, this is an area that I can't naturally get into. I have to focus on bringing myself down into that pronation. So rather than working on knees over toes, I need to work on pronation. I need to work on getting that foot pressed fully into the ground. Now, if you're a coach out there, I think it's like, well, how do we do this? Well, you know, an assessment, but more than an assessment is just talk to the individual. If you're an athlete or a client out there saying, oh my goodness, well, if it's not knees over toes, is it pronation, is it supination, do I need more hip flexion or extension, what is it that I need? Conversation with your coach, and don't be afraid to just listen to your body. We get so caught up in what are others telling me that we forget that oftentimes your body's going to be sending you some pretty good signals, right? So how did I find out I needed more pronation because I'm stuck in supination? Well, I changed out my shoes, so I was you know, constantly in either like Nikes or Reeboks, just your generalized training shoe, switched over to a barefoot shoe, and all of a sudden lateral quad, the outside of my quads, started to hurt, especially when I was in movements that shouldn't be producing pain there. And so that's where the light bulb started. Then from there, why is this pain occurring? And it was trial and error. Maybe it was, you know, I experimented with, was it something in my upper leg that needed to be worked on? No, it wasn't that. Was it something with my hips? Were they not doing what they should have been? No, it wasn't that. So it took me a bit, probably took me close to a month to start to figure out, okay, now I'm at this area, and now this is what's helping with that pain. So quick recap. Number one, not everyone needs the same movements. Number two, in order to figure out what movements you may or may not need, it comes down to an appropriate and a trustworthy conversation with someone that is invested in your health, such as a coach. Number two, it takes you understanding that the process might take more than one educated guess, and that's the right way to go. Don't be afraid to constantly search for what's helping, what's not helping, and once you do that, you can start to fall into that trend of being your own scientist, which is going to greatly help in the longevity of your training plan.